Mrs. Wang, are you with us?
I am paying attention.
We're sleeping. We never really wake up. If you have seen Everything Everywhere All at Once and identified with Evelyn's chaotic mind and routine, and how she seems to both never do anything without multitasking and never really have time for anything, this video is a deep dive into why almost everyone nowadays can relate to her life. We're going to explain why it is so damaging, how does it create the feeling that we are never doing enough, and how we can stop that cycle just like Evelyn did. Evelyn is a middle-aged woman that splits her time between her family, husband, and her business. But even though she is an entrepreneur with a healthy family and nice friends, she doesn't feel fulfilled. Instead, she feels drained by the weight of everyday obligations and worn out by the thought that she had the chance to have a wonderful life and wasted it. Therefore, she's constantly zoning out to live all the lives of the Evelyns she wasn't able to become, even if it's just for a few seconds. And because of that, her mind is like an old TV, zapping through all the channels so fast she can barely process what's going on in one before jumping to the next. Nowadays, zoning out has been a common coping mechanism to bear with the times we're living in. But instead of using visualization as a way to relax our mind for a few moments and recharge, as well as get some extra encouragement, we're relying on daydreaming as escapism to the contemporary growing pain of not being enough and not having time. And that's because Evelyn is sleeping, just like all of us. In this book Awareness, Osho says that we are never awake. We get out of beds, we pay our rent, and take kids to school, but we're still sleeping. The only difference is that sometimes we sleep with our eyes closed and other times with our eyes open.
When you have insomnia, you're never really asleep, and you're never really awake. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Right from the start, all of Evelyn's problems are caused by the fact that she is asleep. She is completely exhausted and unmotivated, trying to cope with all the things that require her attention, and she tries really hard to manage everything. But in the search to get everything together as fast as possible, she ends up never completing tasks. And that leads to neglect. Evelyn is neglecting her bills, the noodles, her husband, and her daughter. Not because she doesn't care. Evelyn cares about everything. That's part of the problem.
If I have to think one more thing today, my head will explode.
She's constantly being overwhelmed and having mental breakdowns because all her tasks and worries and needs overlap. She can't really focus on any of those things. And especially in the past few years, almost everyone can relate to that. In a blink of an eye, all of us lost 2 years of our lives, which only grew the anxiety to achieve things, to be someone, and the unsettling feeling that we don't have enough time anymore, and we're falling behind, even if some of us are literally in their 20s. Just like Evelyn feels. The problem is that we can end up in a cycle of zoning out, feeling guilty, multitasking, not performing as well, or performing well enough, but ignoring needs like sleep, rest, and free time to achieve that. Then feeling burnt out and then zoning out to cope, and so on.
Off. Your clothes never wear as well the next day. Your hair never falls in quite the same way. Even your coffee tastes wrong.
Recognition. So we're overwhelming ourselves with dozens of courses and extra classes and a lot of other things to make us feel productive and useful. We're filling our bagel, and it's going to suck everything else sooner or later. In the book Alice Through the Looking Glass, the Red Queen tells Alice it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that. To which Alice responds saying she's running as fast as she can. We want to prove ourselves so much that we frequently lose sight of what truly matters, and so does Evelyn, as she is always thinking she can fix the rest later, saying she's going to talk to her daughter after the party, telling Wayman they can talk about their feelings another time. And that is exactly what makes her agree to help Alpha Wayman save the world. But there's a point where she can't multitask or postpone any longer. Deirdre offers a last chance and Waymond asks for divorce, while Alpha Waymond really needs her as well, culminating in her having to make a decision and focus on one task only. But to defeat Hobu Tupaki, she has to be there fully, and she's not capable of connecting truly with either of them. When she's in the other dimensions, she's thinking about her own, while when she's in her own, she's thinking about the other ones. At first, Evelyn refuses to help because she wants to do the right thing and focus on what's more important. But what she doesn't realize is, if the multiverse gets destroyed, there will be no use for her organized taxes. Prioritizing. Alpha Waymond is there to help her in almost every step of the way. He calms her down when it all becomes too much and helps her control her sense of urgency, making time for one thing at a time, in a way that allows her to do what needs to be done without getting overwhelmed. Prioritize. And that's when she is finally able to listen to her multiverse daughter and see that her mission is not even to defeat Hobu. The reason why Hobu has been traveling through all the universes to find Evelyn is because she is the only person who could ever comprehend her. All she ever wanted was to find someone that had the same TikTok in her mind, the same white rabbit following them anywhere they go saying they're late. They're always late. She thought that maybe, if she found someone else that also had a white rabbit, they would know a way for her to change and not be like that anymore. Hobu shines a light on all the things Evelyn pushed under the rug until she had the time to solve. But that time never came because there was always something she saw as more urgent. Evelyn finally realizes what all those years of unintentional neglect has turned into, and how they would be easy to solve if she just stopped for a minute and had a conversation right away, instead of letting things pile up. And it's suddenly pretty clear that all she needed to do was the same thing her husband had been doing since the beginning, to have compassion, not only with her daughter, but with Deirdre, her allies and Waymond, and herself. Now she has woken up. Comprehension. And that knowledge breaks her free. When Evelyn realizes Hobu is not a villain, but a victim of the same villain as herself instead, and understands she was struggling to feel like she was enough as well, she changed her approach, and by doing so, she redeems herself. When Hobu was looking for Evelyn, she expected her other dimension mother to have an answer and was disappointed when she realized she didn't have one. But now she did, and that would break Joy free as well. There is no way we can be always present, especially in a digital world that is so full of information and obligations. Sometimes we'll need to multitask and do things on autopilot, otherwise we wouldn't be able to do everything we're asked to. But we can't overwhelm ourselves with daily tasks and other people's expectations, not only because it will damage our mental health in the long term and our relationships, but also because it will harm our progress. And in the end, it will never be enough for someone, the same way Hobu wasn't enough for her Evelyn, and Evelyn wasn't enough for her dad. Evelyn had to go through all of this to really wake up and be present and prioritize, and then see her own bagel was sucking everything up already. The only way she could stop it was by being kind to herself and realizing she was doing her best. And it was a good life, even if her dad didn't approve it the same way her daughter had, even if she didn't approve. There will always be someone to say you could run faster. You got to make sure to always run as fast as you can, not as fast as someone else thinks you could be. There will still be times in which we zone out, but now we know how to wake up.